Welcome to On the Ballot with Ballotpedia, where we connect people to politics by providing neutral, nonpartisan, and reliable information on our government, how it works, and where it's headed.
Welcome, everyone, to another episode of On the Ballot. I'm Norman Leahy, your host. I'm a senior editor here at Ballotpedia, and one of the things that we cover in the course of our encyclopedic coverage of American politics and policy is what goes on in Congress. And one of the more interesting things going on in Congress in the last several weeks, actually since October 1st, is that the government's been shut down. There's been substantial movement on that, even over the weekend. Joining us to explain what's going on, might happen, and where we might go from here is Hans, a veteran reporter who I've been watching on TV for a long time. Hans Nichols, a political journalist, of course, and author of Axios' Hill Leaders newsletter. Hans, welcome to On the Ballot. Glad to have you.
I'll say we couldn't imagine a better day to be on here because we have a lot of news.
Who knew? Yeah, we planned this. We did. But first, tell me, what's the state of play as you and I speak right now?
Well, it's Monday morning, coming up, and we're in the 10 a.m. hour. The Senate will have some sort of decision today. Last night, they got to 60-40, so they got cloture on a bill that will open up the government through the end of January, okay? So depending on how you count your weeks, let's just call that a 7-week deal. So government's going to be open. Along with that deal, they have 3 normal appropriations process. It's agriculture, it's military construction, it's the legislative branch. Those will kind of go through the process of just getting passed and signed into law by the president. Everything still needs to be done by the House, I should note. And crucially, SNAP benefits, so just food assistance for families that are struggling, that will be extended through the end of the fiscal year, so through September 30th. The big question we have now is sort of on a tactical matter, which is, will there be a senator that will object to this and try to break Cory Booker's filibuster record? So you could have something like that happen in the Senate here. We'll know that later on today. And then we have to see what the coalition is like in the House of Representatives. It doesn't look like the president is really spiking the football on this one. Sorry to use a football metaphor, but he was at the Commanders game last night. And so Speaker Mike Johnson is going to have to, he's going to probably lose 2, and he can only lose 2 because Raul Grijalva's daughter is going to be, she won election weeks ago, and she'll be sworn in.
Right. So that means the House will actually have to come back into session since what?
Yep. I think it was the 29th of September, but check me on that.
Yeah, I think it's late September that they've been out, and now they actually have to earn their bread. And you mentioned too, there could be other speed bumps in the Senate, and I know that some people are looking at Senator Rand Paul to see if he's, working up his vocal cords for a possible filibuster. But we'll all have to wait and see about that. Now, there was one contour in that compromise I noticed that was about GAO funding, Government Accountability Office funding. The House had cut that in half. The Senate deal restores it to a flat level and gives the GAO back the ability to sue the White House over withheld funds. So do you think something like that survives in the House, or is that one of many potential sticking points?
It's a take it or leave it opposition. You've just identified a great friction point and given me something to report on throughout the day.
No.
So the House, it's passed the Senate right now. You could see it going back and forth, but that doesn't. You could see there being a little bit of game of ping pong here. But if the Senate restores it, it's in the Senate bill. The House is going to have to sort of decide to reopen the government and include all that because it's one big package. And so I would suggest that the House has to eat that, which the House has had to eat a lot of things historically, and I think that's going to be true again.
What a metaphor to begin the day. Speaking of which, one of the big issues that has gotten a lot of the attention on this is what to do about the Affordable Care Act, subsidies that expired, rising healthcare premiums. And I come at it this way. Tell me what you think. In politics, there are 2 ways to approach things. You can have an issue or you can have its solution. You can't have both. It appears to me that Senate Democrats have offered to take the issue and run with it as opposed to offering a solution. How is that? What do you think?
I think that's partly right and partly wrong. It's right in that they get their vote sometime in early December, and that vote is going to fail. Okay, so just a little bit of background on this enhanced premium tax credits. They're initially, they've been running out of money for some time. Biden included more money for them in the so just a way to make the exchanges, the health insurance exchanges on Obamacare, more affordable. Republicans think it's a massive giveaway to insurance companies. Biden kind of included it. It was emergency spending, and it was going to expire. They expire at the end of this year. There's going to be a vote in the Senate. It's likely to fail because they set that bar at 60. So maybe you can squint and convince yourselves that there are some centrist Republicans that are going to vote for that. I haven't picked up any of that. There may be 2 or 3 Republicans. Susan Collins will probably vote for it. It allows her to create some distance with the president. It gives her an issue to run on. And she gets to say to her voters in Maine, well, I supported that. So any chance Susan Collins has to create separation between herself and her party, it's a good day for Susan Collins and her reelection campaign and the 3 or 4 super PACs that are trying to get her across the line. Maybe, yeah. So maybe a few others. It will fail in the House. Here's what's going to here's the best way to think about the Affordable Care Act and the premium enhanced tax credits is that the real deadline is January 30th, because that's how long the government's going to be open for. And that's another pressure point for Democrats. There is some appetite to do something on both sides of the aisle on the tax credits. There's a part of the president's party that thinks they're going to get hammered on this. There's a part that doesn't care and thinks it's just a giveaway to the insurance companies. So if Trump gets involved and tries to do something with it, he's been all over the place on social media saying that he wants to give the money directly to people. Maybe that will work, right? So there's a deal that's out there. The deal's kind of been obvious since the beginning of November, which is, beginning of October, is that you extend it. You do a full year straight extension. It's too late in the season, so 2026 full year extension, and let's just say that costs $24 billion a year. And then on year 2, you phase it out and you put income tax credits on. So in year 2, you say for any families, because there are no income tax credits on income limits on it now. So for year 2, you say, I think $320,000 per family. So if you make above that, you don't get the tax credits. If you get below it, you qualify. And so then you'll have that would take you through 2027 through the midterms. And then there'll be a discussion about who should get the benefits and how long. And, but you were taking money out of the system, and therefore that is going to, if these do expire, and it's going to make healthcare more expensive, and Republicans know they're going to be in a cost of living election, and they want to mitigate against that.
And that's the next point I wanted to raise. The cost of living was a big issue in the elections on November 4th. It was a driving issue, and it wasn't just in the Acela corridor which I extend down to Richmond, where I am, up to New York.
For you.
It was everywhere. And it was interesting to me, the cleavage in the Senate between people who are on the ballot in 2026 and those who are not among Democrats. But tell me about Republicans. They could read returns as much as anybody else. Do they feel any heat about this affordability thing?
Yeah, I mean, the real autopsy in the Republican Party hasn't. I mean, it's probably you might be in a better position than me because it's so Virginia focused, sort of the Republican on Republican violence on what went wrong. I the main conversation in the Republican Party right now is on the election is that they've diagnosed the problem, and that is they have a massive problem with Donald Trump is not on the ballot. Well, Donald Trump's let's leave 2028 speculation aside. I tend to think that the president is trolling all of us when he jokes about that, but I could be wrong. So I just want to but he's definitely not going to be on the ballot in 2026. So the party's smartest strategists have diagnosed the problem. They haven't offered a solution. And they don't quite know how to really get their voters out. And on the other side of it, Democratic voters are hyper motivated. You saw that just by the margins in Virginia, the outcome in New Jersey. So for the independent, the swing voters, the sort of, let's just put them in the bucket of they were Trump in 2016, Biden in 2020, and then Trump in 2024. Of those sort of swing voters, they're the ones that are probably the most concerned about cost of living. And what we learned in the Biden presidency, we learned what doesn't work. It doesn't work to pretend there's no affordability crisis and say that inflation is transitory. It also doesn't work to try to convince voters that things are better than they are and just look at the data. It seems to me that the Trump White House is in the second mind frame right now, where they're saying we brought down so many costs and so many, and that gas is lower, right? I just filled up my minivan in Virginia the other day for 279 as the lowest octane, but like, and for anyone that's wondering, the Odyssey tank on the Odyssey minivan, they say it's 19 gallons, but you can get 20 in there. So just news you can use.
Yes, exactly. A bit of a consumer advice and all about
Yeah.
any of that. But one of the things you touched up too that I want to amplify is that if you look on social media, which is always a crapshoot on a good day, progressives, online progressives, are extraordinarily upset at what the Senate Democrats have done. Are there any repercussions from that?
Yes, there will the main repercussions is that there will be a lot of not a more and more Senate Democratic challengers are going to be running against their party to get their nomination, and then running against their party in the general election. That has implications for Chuck Schumer should he want to be majority leader or stay and minority leader or majority leader in 2026. Um, uh, but the basic issue with the Democratic Party right now, and their basic challenge, is they're still coming to terms with their loss in 2024, and they're just very angry. And they think what's happening with the Trump administration is just an abomination. They've seen, you saw James Walkinshaw, a representative from Northern Virginia, Democrat, has 60 to 80,000 federal workers in his district. He's up in Fairfax County, so a little bit north from you. And second or highest third concentration of federal workers. If you include contractors, it's probably like 1 in 3 workers in his district are get paid by the federal government. He told me mid shutdown that all those voters are saying hold the line. In a lot of ways, the shutdown already started with Trump's presidency when they did the Doge stuff and then they did the rifts, right? So um Democrats are like it's very like they're out of power and they're angry. Now they now Republicans will say they just had a little bit of a fit and a conniption fit with this shutdown because what did they get? We shut down the government for 7 weeks, and what they get? They got the same deal that was on offer on the table in the end of September, which is a promised vote on the ACA premium tax credits, not a promised outcome, and then an agreement to discuss it. Now, I think they got a little bit more. They got SNAP benefits through the end of the year, and they got this promise on the RIFs, the reduction in force. But the RIFs was, in a way, a problem that the shutdown created. So have they taken this deal September 29th on that? I don't know if it was a Thursday night vote. And had they taken that deal, we'd probably be in the same position now, which is that there's going to be a vote on the premium exchanges, and you give more time for the appropriations process, the normal appropriations process, to work out all their kinks and get something to the House.
And do you think that out of all of these weeks that we've been seeing this happen and the stories mount up, is there something that we've missed? Something that this shutdown, yes, government shuts down, and used to be once upon a time like shut down the parks, the Washington Monument strategy, because it made for
Yeah.
great visuals. But is there something there that we've missed? And is there something that we've missed coming out of this? Because as I've heard, it's easy to get into a shutdown. It's hard to get out.
Hard to get out. Yeah.
So what did we miss?
I don't know if we've missed anything. I think we've learned something, and we've learned that Democrats are willing to endure a fair amount of political pain and roll the dice and endure that pain if some of that pain is also shared with Republicans and Trump. We've learned that Democrats were pretty successful in their messaging operation. The blame and like the polls are a little bit, let's just say it was 60-40 blame for Republicans versus 40% for Democrats. When in reality, you look at, the proximate cause of the shutdown was Democrats not supplying the votes. So Republicans were deeply frustrated that wasn't 90-10 blaming the Democrats, as it had been anytime a Republican, and the Republicans were very clear that they're shutting down the government. Ted Cruz, 2013, I'm shutting down the government to make healthcare changes. And the town was apoplectic. This time Democrats shut down the government to make the healthcare changes, and half the town is like, hold the line. And voters kind of, enough voters agreed with them, and then Republicans were validated, or rebuked, and Democrats were validated by the off year election. So yeah, we probably missed something. I don't know. I miss stuff in my stories all the time. I don't. I think it was clarifying, and the fundamental I mean, the crisis has been averted. This is what I'll leave you with. The crisis has been averted, but the fundamental divisiveness and fissures in American politics have not been papered over, or they've been papered over. They just haven't been solved. And we're a deeply divided country, and that's going to continue until 2026. I suspect it will be exacerbated in 2026 if the House Republicans lose the House and Trump is still president. So, yeah, it's clarifying, but not always edifying.
Clarifying, but not always edifying. I think that's a great way to wrap things up. And we get to relive all of this in January, don't we?
Yeah, the way the inside straight that they draw, so we don't live this in January, is that you have enough of the normal appropriations bills that get through, so you have a shutdown only on like a third of the government, and then you just kind of agree to fund it for the rest of the year. And let's just be optimistic here a little bit because it's Monday. That you have some sort of solution on a 2-year deal with income caps on the premium tax credits, premium healthcare tax credits.
It's always good to end on an upbeat note. Hans Nichols with Axios, I appreciate that. And thank you for coming on after, I think, a very long night of reporting.
You bet. You guys do great work. I love your data. Everyone should just hoover up your data. You make my job easier. This is the least I can do because I've been stealing from you from some time. I give you credit, but I've been stealing your guys' good work. So thanks again.
That's why we're here, and we appreciate it. And for everybody who's out there listening and watching, yes, you can find out more information about the shutdown, about the mechanics of it, about things that I probably missed in this interview with Hans. And they'll be in the links in the show notes below there. And we'll be back Wednesday with another show. And until then, I'm Norm Leahy, and I'll look for you in the digital pages of Ballotpedia. Take care.